What if everything you thought you knew about your relationship with your mother was just the surface of a much deeper spiritual truth? What if the challenges, the love, the conflicts, and even the pain you experienced were all part of a sacred contract your soul made before you were even born? Today, we're diving into one of the most profound and controversial teachings from Dr. Brian Weiss, the renowned psychiatrist who revolutionized our understanding of past lives and soul contracts. This isn't just another spiritual concept. This is a revelation that could completely transform how you see your family relationships and your entire life purpose. Dr. Weiss discovered something that challenges everything we think we know about family dynamics. Through thousands of past life regression sessions, he uncovered a startling truth. Our souls don't randomly end up with our mothers. There's a deliberate, conscious choice happening at the soul level, and the reasons behind this choice might surprise you. If you're ready to understand the deeper spiritual reasons behind your maternal relationship and how it shapes your soul's evolution, then you're in the right place. This journey will reveal why your soul specifically chose your mother, what lessons you came here to learn together, and how understanding this can heal generations of family patterns. If you feel drawn to these deeper spiritual truths, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Leave a comment saying, "I'm ready to evolve spiritually," so we can build this community of awakened souls together. Dr. Brian Weiss didn't start his career believing in past lives or soul contracts. He was a traditional psychiatrist, trained at Yale and working at Mount Sinai Medical Center, when something extraordinary happened that changed everything. During a routine therapy session with a patient named Catherine, she spontaneously began recalling what appeared to be past life memories under hypnosis. But what shocked Dr. Weiss even more was when Catherine began channeling messages from what she called master spirits, beings of light, who revealed profound truths about how souls choose their life circumstances, including their families. These entities explained that before birth, souls carefully select their parents, particularly their mothers, based on specific lessons they need to learn and karma they need to resolve. According to these revelations, the relationship between a soul and its chosen mother operates on multiple levels. The physical level is what we see, the daily interactions, the emotional dynamics, the practical care. But beneath this lies the soul level, where profound spiritual contracts are at play. These contracts aren't about punishment or reward, they're about growth, healing, and evolution. Dr. Weiss learned that mothers are often chosen because they carry specific energetic patterns, emotional blueprints, and karmic histories that create the perfect conditions for the soul's learning. Sometimes a soul chooses a nurturing, supportive mother to experience unconditional love and learn about self-worth. Other times, a soul deliberately chooses a challenging or even difficult mother to develop resilience, compassion, or to break ancestral patterns. The master spirits revealed that some of the most advanced souls actually choose the most challenging family situations because they have the spiritual strength to not only survive, but transform these dynamics. They come as healers, pattern breakers, and bridges between generations. What makes this even more fascinating is that Dr. Weiss discovered these soul contracts aren't one-sided. Mothers also choose their children at the soul level. There's a mutual agreement, a sacred dance of souls who recognize each other across lifetimes and agree to play specific roles in each other's spiritual development. This understanding completely revolutionizes how we interpret family conflicts and challenges. What appears as dysfunction on the surface might actually be two souls working through ancient karma, healing old wounds, or fulfilling promises made in the space between lives. However, this perspective brings up one of the most challenging aspects of spiritual growth: accepting responsibility for our life circumstances without falling into self-blame. Critics of Dr. Weiss's work argue that suggesting souls choose difficult situations can lead to victim blaming or spiritual bypassing. How do we balance the empowerment that comes from understanding soul choice with compassion for human suffering? Dr. Weiss addresses this by emphasizing that choice at the soul level doesn't mean the human personality is responsible for creating trauma. The soul's wisdom operates from a much higher perspective than our earthly consciousness. A soul might choose a challenging mother not because it wants to suffer, but because it knows this particular dynamic will catalyze the greatest growth and healing. Another controversy surrounds the idea of predetermined destiny versus free will. If our souls have already chosen our mothers and mapped out our lessons, what room does that leave for personal agency and choice? Dr. Weiss explains that while the broad framework might be chosen, how we respond to these circumstances is entirely up to us. We can learn our lessons through love and awareness, or through resistance and suffering. The choice is always ours. Some people struggle with this teaching because it asks them to see their mothers not as perfect or terrible, but as souls on their own journey, doing their best within their own limitations and karmic patterns. This requires a level of spiritual maturity that can feel overwhelming, especially for those dealing with maternal relationships marked by abuse, neglect, or abandonment. The process of spiritual maturation that Dr. Weiss describes isn't linear or simple. It unfolds through several distinct phases, each bringing deeper understanding of the soul-mother connection. The first phase is unconscious living, where we simply react to our maternal relationship without understanding its deeper purpose. We might feel victimized by a difficult mother or take a loving mother for granted, never questioning why these particular dynamics exist in our lives. The second phase involves awakening awareness, often triggered by therapy, spiritual seeking, or life crises. This is when people begin to question the surface-level story and sense there might be deeper meanings to their family experiences. They start recognizing patterns that seem to repeat across generations or feeling drawn to understand the spiritual dimension of relationships. The third phase brings conscious recognition of the soul contract. This might happen through past life regression, meditation, dreams, or sudden intuitive insights. People begin to understand that their relationship with their mother serves specific spiritual purposes and that both souls agreed to these dynamics before birth. Dr. Weiss found that this recognition often brings profound relief and healing. Suddenly, years of confusion and pain begin to make sense from a higher perspective. A woman who struggled with her critical mother might realize her soul chose this experience to develop self-love and learn not to seek validation from others. A man who felt abandoned by his mother might understand he came to learn independence and develop his inner nurturing capacity. The fourth phase involves conscious transformation, where this understanding becomes a tool for healing and growth. Instead of remaining trapped in old patterns, people begin actively working with their soul contracts. They might forgive their mothers not because their behavior was acceptable, but because they understand the spiritual service these challenges provided. The final phase is transcendent integration, where the soul lessons become so thoroughly understood and integrated that the original wounds transform into wisdom. People in this phase often become healers themselves, helping others understand their own family dynamics from a soul perspective. Share in the comments about a moment when you felt the presence of spiritual guidance or experienced an inner transformation that helped you understand your family relationships differently. Understanding why your soul chose your mother becomes deeply personal when we examine how this relationship shapes every aspect of your daily experience. Dr. Weiss discovered that the mother-child soul contract influences far more than just family dynamics. It affects how you relate to authority, how you give and receive love, your relationship with the feminine aspects of life, and even your spiritual path. Your relationship with your mother becomes the template for how you interact with the world. If your soul chose a mother who was emotionally unavailable, you might find yourself constantly seeking approval from others, or, conversely, becoming fiercely independent. If your soul chose a smothering mother, you might struggle with boundaries but develop exceptional empathy and nurturing abilities. Dr. Weiss observed that many people spend their entire lives unconsciously recreating their maternal dynamics in romantic relationships, friendships, and even career situations. A woman with a controlling mother might find herself attracting controlling partners, not because she enjoys being controlled, but because her soul is trying to master the lesson of maintaining her authentic self in the face of domination. What's fascinating is that Dr. Weiss found these patterns often span multiple lifetimes. Souls frequently incarnate together in various relationships, sometimes as mother and child, sometimes as siblings, lovers, or friends, until certain lessons are fully integrated. Your current mother might have been your child in a previous life, your spouse, or even your own mother multiple times, each incarnation offering different opportunities for growth and healing. The emotional wounds and gifts you received from your mother aren't random, they're precisely calibrated to your soul's needs. If you came here to develop compassion, you might have chosen a mother who struggled with her own pain, giving you opportunities to see beyond surface behavior to the suffering soul beneath. If you came to learn about unconditional love, you might have chosen a mother whose love was steady and unwavering, teaching you what healthy love looks like. But here's where it gets really interesting. Dr. Weiss discovered that recognizing these soul contracts doesn't mean accepting harmful behavior or remaining in toxic situations. In fact, understanding the spiritual purpose often gives people the strength and clarity to set healthy boundaries or even end contact when necessary. The soul lesson might be learning to protect yourself from someone who can't control their harmful patterns. Sometimes, the greatest spiritual service you can provide to your mother's soul is refusing to enable her dysfunction or absorb her unhealed trauma. Breaking generational patterns often requires what looks like rejection on the human level, but is actually deep love on the soul level. If this message is resonating with your heart, give it a like so more souls can awaken to these transformative truths. Dr. Weiss documented numerous signs and patterns that indicate the deeper spiritual dimensions of mother-child relationships. These aren't just coincidences, they're evidence of the soul contracts at work. One of the most common signs is repetitive patterns across generations. If anger, addiction, or abandonment issues appear repeatedly in your maternal lineage, this often indicates a soul group working together to heal these energetic patterns. Your soul might have chosen to incarnate into this family specifically to be the one who breaks the cycle. Another indicator is intense, inexplicable emotions toward your mother that seem disproportionate to current circumstances. Overwhelming anger, inexplicable fear, or instant deep connection often point to karmic history between souls. Dr. Weiss found that many people who had violent or traumatic relationships with their mothers in past lives chose to incarnate as their children in this life to heal those wounds through love and forgiveness. Dreams and intuitive flashes provide another form of evidence. Many people report dreams where they see their mothers as different people in different time periods, or receive insights about agreements made before birth. Some recall actual memories of choosing their mothers from the space between lives, describing a process of reviewing different soul options and selecting the one that would provide the most growth opportunities. Physical resemblances and shared talents often indicate soul connections that transcend genetics. Dr. Weiss encountered cases where adopted children bore striking resemblances to their adoptive mothers, or inherited talents that had no genetic basis, suggesting souls that had planned to find each other regardless of biological connection. Synchronicities and meaningful coincidences frequently surround the mother-child relationship when soul contracts are active. Meeting at just the right moment, being drawn to the same locations, or having complementary life experiences that seem divinely orchestrated all point to souls fulfilling predetermined agreements. The timing of difficulties and healings in the relationship often follows spiritual rather than logical patterns. Dr. Weiss noticed that major shifts in mother-child dynamics frequently coincide with spiritual awakenings, suggesting that as consciousness expands, the soul contract evolves to the next level. Perhaps most significantly, many people report sudden understanding or forgiveness that seems to come from beyond their human capacity. This spiritual download of compassion often indicates that the soul-level work has been completed and the relationship can transform into something entirely new. Research in consciousness studies supports many of Dr. Weiss's observations. Studies on cellular memory suggest that trauma and emotional patterns can be inherited across generations, creating the very conditions that souls might choose for specific learning experiences. Quantum physics principles about interconnectedness align with the idea that souls exist in relationship webs that transcend individual lifetimes. Near-death experience research consistently reports that souls review their life choices, including family selections, with guides or councils of elders. Many describe seeing how their earthly relationships served their spiritual development in ways they never understood while alive. Even skeptics acknowledge that viewing family relationships through the lens of spiritual purpose and mutual growth creates more healing outcomes than traditional victim-perpetrator models. Whether or not one believes in literal soul contracts, this perspective empowers people to find meaning in suffering and motivation for positive change. Send this video to someone who's seeking spiritual clarity or comfort in understanding their family relationships. So how do we practically work with this understanding to create healing and transformation? Dr. Weiss developed several approaches that help people consciously engage with their soul contracts instead of remaining unconscious victims of family patterns. The first step involves releasing the need to judge your mother's behavior as right or wrong and instead asking, "What is my soul trying to learn through this experience?" This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but rather accessing the higher perspective that can guide healing responses. Dr. Weiss often guided clients through meditative processes where they connected with their pre-birth consciousness and accessed memories of choosing their mothers. These sessions frequently revealed the specific qualities or challenges they were drawn to and why those experiences were necessary for their soul's evolution. Forgiveness becomes radically different when understood from this perspective. Instead of forgiving despite the harm caused, you begin to appreciate the spiritual service your mother's soul provided, even through difficult experiences. This doesn't mean the human personality that caused harm doesn't need to take responsibility, but rather that the soul connection transcends the personality-level drama. Setting boundaries also transforms when viewed through soul contract awareness. You might realize that enabling your mother's dysfunction actually prevents both souls from completing their learning. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in destructive patterns, even if this creates temporary conflict or distance. Dr. Weiss found that many people needed to grieve the mother they wished they'd had before they could appreciate the mother their soul actually chose. This grief process often reveals the deeper gifts hidden within challenging relationships. A woman who grieved her emotionally distant mother might discover she developed extraordinary intuitive abilities as a result of learning to read subtle energy cues. Practical exercises include writing letters to your mother's soul, not necessarily to be sent, expressing gratitude for the lessons learned through your relationship. Many people report profound healing through this process, even when the human relationship remains difficult. Another powerful technique involves visualizing conversations with your mother's higher self, accessing the wisdom that exists beyond personality conflicts and wounds. These soul-to-soul communications often provide insights that transform understanding and open pathways for healing. Working with ancestral patterns requires recognizing that healing your relationship with your mother affects your entire lineage, both backward and forward. Dr. Weiss observed that when someone fully integrates their soul lessons with their mother, it often catalyzes healing for siblings, grandparents, and future generations. Write in the comments, "Today I release old patterns and embrace the light of spiritual renewal." The implications of understanding why your soul chose your mother extend far beyond family healing. This awareness fundamentally shifts how you approach all relationships, viewing them as opportunities for mutual spiritual growth rather than just human connections. When you truly grasp that your mother's soul agreed to play certain roles in your development, even difficult ones, it becomes easier to extend this understanding to everyone in your life. Challenging people transform from obstacles into teachers. Difficult situations become graduation tests for spiritual lessons you've been learning. This perspective also radically alters how you parent your own children if you have them. Instead of seeing yourself as responsible for creating perfect lives for them, you begin to understand that their souls chose you for specific reasons. Your job becomes supporting their soul's journey rather than preventing all difficulties. Dr. Weiss found that people who integrate this understanding often experience profound shifts in their life purpose and direction. Understanding the soul-level agreements they made frequently clarifies career paths, relationship choices, and spiritual practices that align with their deeper mission. The healing that occurs through this work ripples outward in unexpected ways. Many people report that as they transform their understanding of their maternal relationship, other family members begin changing as well, even without direct conversation about these concepts. This suggests that healing at the soul level affects the entire family system energetically. Perhaps most importantly, this understanding provides a framework for approaching life's difficulties with curiosity rather than victimhood. When you know that your soul actively chose your circumstances for growth purposes, challenges become opportunities to fulfill your deepest spiritual commitments. Dr. Weiss often reminded his patients that the goal isn't to become grateful for abuse or to spiritually bypass legitimate anger and pain. Rather, it's to access the perspective that allows you to transform suffering into wisdom, wounds into gifts, and generational patterns into healing legacies. The forbidden nature of this vision isn't because the information itself is dangerous, but because it challenges fundamental assumptions about victimhood, family obligation, and the nature of reality itself. It asks us to consider that we are far more powerful and purposeful than we typically believe, and that even our most painful experiences might be expressions of our soul's deepest love and commitment to growth. Thank the higher realm by leaving your like as a sign of connection and gratitude for receiving this message. As we reach the end of this journey together, let's remember the profound truth we've explored. Your relationship with your mother, in all its complexity and challenge, is one of the most sacred contracts your soul has ever made. Whether that relationship brought you comfort or struggle,